following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
Hey, good afternoon, and welcome to this week's installment of MARC and the Midday. I'm Mark Weiss. I'm here with my partner, as always, the star of the show, Country Mark Littell, who is recently celebrating his 65th birthday. So happy birthday, partner! And with us today is a former teammate of Mark's, Mr. Tom Bruno. Tom, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Mark and Mark. Appreciate it.
Yeah, Mark, your answer on the 65th is like the first book that term I used. I said, "Are you shitting me? I'm 65." So that's my answer to that one. But Tom Bruno is somebody that I know. Teammate. Yeah, I know. We're gonna get this out of the way. I'm older than you. I'm a young man by a week or so here. So you're coming. And you're coming on quick.
Your day's coming too, buddy, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
We feel it.
As long as we're having fun, that's the big deal, man. Having fun the whole time.
Well, let me tell you about Tom Bruno a little bit, because Tom kind of was always one of my favorites because I didn't want to mess with him, and I was kind of a strong old country boy. And Tom he came out of Chicago. He's west of Chicago, probably 30 miles or so, in Downers Grove, But here's this guy with a Chicago accent, and all of a sudden he wants to hunt and fish all the time. And we both signed in the same year, 1971, and I signed a little bit earlier, and then Tom signed, just the same year, but only in the summer. And then we met up, got to know each other the first time a little bit in instructional league down in Florida at the complex, Royals complex. And Tom was a pitcher, and he went up and down to the show, and he got some time in. And unfortunately, we'll talk about this as we go on, which isn't a real good subject, but it's an unfortunate thing too. But Tom, like Mark said, really happy to have you on, and I know you're living down in South Dakota right now, right 20 miles above Pierre. And I hope I did pronounce that right. That is the capital, I know, right? And
it's close. Pierre, South Dakota, just like a boat dock, a pier. It's a
pier. Okay. Yeah. I started calling Pierre, and the guy said, "No, it's Pierre." I said, "Okay, whatever." So anyway,
you gotta have the local accent down. That's what it is.
Exactly. And I said, "Well, 20 miles. That town's only 18,000, and that's the capital, and it's toward the middle of the state, I think, kind of a little bit. But, I know there's a bunch of Indian reservations there, and I know you're into Tom's, he's got the, big league, the hunting thing going, because that's all ever Tom did. I always saw him with a duck collar in his mouth, and here's this kid from Chicago going with a turkey collar, a duck collar, fishing gear, and Tom will tell you more about that. We were just talking about some stuff, but you want to go a little further on that one, Tom?
Yeah, you bet. No, I'm here on the Missouri River, and very fortunate. It's a beautiful part of the United States, and I am in the hunting and fishing business. Upland birds, mostly pheasants, and then the fish we fish for in the spring and summer is mostly targeted as the walleye, and along with that, smallmouth bass, and we do have some catfish also. But I'm very fortunate that I've been able to see all the United States based upon the travels of being a ball player. And then I've been able to pick a beautiful place like this and work hard and again, do something that I have a passion for and eke out a living. So very happy here.
Yeah. And your wife's name is Jane, and she was she grew up 30 miles out from you, and you guys bumped into each other a few years ago and said, "Hey."
Well, yep.
There you go.
Kind of a funny thing. I'd already been done from baseball for quite a while, and went back. Actually, the Royals had an activity alumni thing going on, and that's how I ran into this gal. And a few years later, we got married, and found out, that she was 30 miles from where I grew up in Illinois, and we both went to Eastern Illinois University too. I went there a short period of time. She went there for the full duration of her education, but so no,
you got
great.
brains,
everything.
That's what they call a crazy coincidence.
Correct. Yeah. Like God said, this is how it's going to be. You may want it different, but this is how it's going to be.
So you got the brains and the brawn. Like my marriage is brains and brawn. I'm the brawn, and the wife over here is, keeps our butt in line.
Well, you're in a real pretty place too now in Dickinson, North Dakota. I think I haven't been there for a while, but I've always admired that area over there. And Medora is Medora would be a national park, I guess, right?
Teddy Roosevelt National Park. Yeah.
Right. Yep.
It's gorgeous, and they got buffalo and painted horses, and the wild horses are from Custer's Last Stand. They did a blood draw about 3 years ago and found out that seemed to be the case. So.
Yep.
Yeah. But Tom started with the Royals, and then give us a little line here on that.
Well,
I know I got Rainman Mark over there. He knows.
Oh, I know.
Mark Littell went to the major leagues before I did. I don't remember exactly, Mark, if you went in this like 74 or 5, something like this when you first went. Yeah. And I never got there till 76. Or maybe you were there in 73. Anyway, I went through the whole system with Kansas City. Then I was called up in 76, and that's the year we won that American League West. And anyway, you know the rest of that season, how it went.
Right.
We don't like to reminisce about that.
I understand. And then that winter of 76 in expansion, Seattle and Toronto, and I was taken by Toronto. And some guys had a great experience over there, and Toronto's a nice, large city in Canada, and it did have good walleye fishing, and I did more of that than I probably should. I should have been. Anyway, and then the next year, I was traded to St. Louis, and then I spent parts of 78, 79 in St. Louis, and then I was released in the spring of the year 1980. And that's when we get into this other subject. If I'd have had 1 day of service in 1980, then I wouldn't feel like I do about being penalized for playing Major League Baseball at the wrong time.
Right.
Yeah. We've had a frequent guest on our show, Doug Gladstone, who's a champion of the forgotten 500, the guys who somehow came up short of getting a pension, and he's written books about it, and he's done a whole lot of things to try to, champion the cause to make sure the right thing is done by Major League Baseball and the Players Association.
Hopefully that happens.
So we're on it.
Yeah, right. Oh, that's great. And I had mentioned to somebody the other day, we hear all the talk about us of the members of the 500 club that don't have their full 4 years in, and then Doug Gladstone just recently came up. There's another segment of guys still alive that don't even have the 43 days. I believe it's 200 some odd guys there that aren't totally forgotten, that Doug at least went and got their names. And, Mark, I think you'll agree with me. When we played, and Marvin Miller would come in and address each ball club every spring training. Yes. And his assistant, Don Fear. And the attitude was all for one, one for all. That was the attitude. When we talked about what we should be doing, it was always all of us together, like the no man left behind feeling. That's how you felt about it when you thought about how you should vote on subjects in spring training. When our union leaders talked to us. Well, yes. What I feel about today is let's instead of saying what about the 500 guys that don't have their 4 full years in, let's say, well, what do you think would happen if they went now retroactively and said, okay, we're going back to 1980s from 2018. Anybody that doesn't have 4 full years in, I'm sorry, we're going to take away the benefits that we gave. I'll guarantee you there'd be screaming bloody murder from Florida through Canada and all across the globe if you said to those guys, we're going to take it away now. So all I'm saying is we should all be equal, all the same.
I agree. 100%.
Unfortunately, and this is what we've gotten from talking to Doug and from the shows we've done, is that Steve Rogers and the Players Association sold you guys down the river. back in the early 80s and basically negotiated that deal. For as horrible as it is, they didn't take the no man left behind attitude. They just cared about themselves and going forward.
It seems that way. And that's disappointing. My attitude is very disappointing because
right.
I don't want anything that I don't deserve. I just want, if everybody said it's always like that, I can live with that. But how do you just draw a line in the sand and say, okay, you guys over here can have this, but you guys that did the exact same job, you can't have that. I understand that the active players and the fans of today, it's human nature to forget. There's not everybody's interested in history and what the guys did that came before. But I think the right thing to do would be for all of us to be equal for our time, whatever that may be.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the players,
I agree.
The players back then, when we were going through all that, rigmarole, we were part of that because I know that I went through at least 6 strikes and probably 7.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
One owner,
the work stoppages.
Yeah.
Mark,
one owner lockout.
Greedy side, I could say, look, I didn't make a ball club in 76 in spring training because they were going to take the guys, because they were afraid of some kind of work stoppage. We got to take whoever's established. So as a young person having a good spring, that really didn't mean anything. And I'm not trying to make an excuse that I should have this or that, but those work stoppages were to help the guys that came after us. And,
yes.
And I think it helped a lot of guys.
Yeah. Well, these guys nowadays, as we all know, and I say these guys, but I would like to think that they would trigger and acknowledge us, but I don't think that's the case. But I know Major League Baseball right now has such a big hand on anybody that tries to go into a clubhouse. I mean, you got to have all kinds of. They got to draw blood on you almost, and even if you were a former player,
Right.
You just don't walk in and say, "Oh my, this guy's upsetting my aura. Who the hell is this?"
I'll tell you, if I was like the owner of, let's say, the Detroit Tigers or Philadelphia, teams that lost almost 100 games last year, the last week of September, I'd find as many of you guys as possible, put you on the active roster, and let you get one at bat or one inning or whatever it takes to make you qualify for that pension.
Yeah. Well, that's a kind gesture, and I understand where that comes from, but I don't think it should have to be that way.
I agree with you 100%, but I'm all for anything that works at this point because it seems like it's actually not even really the owners; it's the Players Association that's the problem. The owners always say that it never comes up, so we don't bring it up.
Right. And I don't know the mathematics of it. I mean, I do know that the Major League Baseball pension fund, of what I hear, is it's like one of the best funded funds in history.
It's crazy funded.
So, I mean, so it's not like they're it's not like they're going to miss a few dollars to share with the. Right. Here's how I look at it too. The guys like me, we helped those guys get in the Hall of Fame. If it wasn't for the guys that didn't have a real good career, they wouldn't have those Hall of Fame guys. We helped them get all those home runs and everything.
Good point, Tom. I like that analogy right there, buddy.
Yeah, exactly. If I didn't have guys like me giving up a lot of base hits and having them score runs, they couldn't have all those guys getting in the Hall of Fame.
Well, they should be coming out to your hunting lodge, and you should be charging the living shit out of them then. So let's get even here. So,
yeah.
Doug was sitting there talking about, hell, if he gave just $5 million and put it out there. I mean, damn. I mean, that's, and to the 500, that comes out to this number, and no shit. What's $5 million or 10 or even $10 million?
Well, we figured out that if they just put a little surcharge on the players of like a 1/10% of what they earn, not a percent, but a 1/10%, it would more than fund this.
Oh gosh!
And we're talking about guys whose minimum salary is about $580, and most of them average about $5 or $6 million.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not talking about guys who are hurting.
No, not at all. But hey, Mark, you just turned 65. I'm going to be 65.
Right.
I'm one of the youngest. I may not be the youngest, but I'm definitely one of the youngest guys that this happened. Because, all right, I'm released the last day of spring training in 1980. Okay, so sure, I could say if I had one day of service, one of 1980, I wouldn't be in this, but I am. But the point I'm trying to make is, so I'm going to be 65. They're not going to have to wait too much longer, and this whole issue goes away on its own anyway. So
that's what they're thinking. They're thinking that they're just going to play like
everybody dies out.
Offense. They're going to play out the clock.
Exactly, and that, you know, I appreciate you guys at least letting other people know about it. It almost seems like the people, the powers that be in our game are just trying to suppress the information so no one really knows about it. And if they don't know about it, they can't squawk about it.
Well, as Doug had told us, and I believe it 100% wholeheartedly, is that he had such a tough time getting this out there, any airplay. And I said to him, you know why? He said, why? I said, because the magazines, the newspapers, the sporting news, the TV shows, the internet station, whatever it is, they want access to Major League Baseball. And if they give you a venue to put this out there, which is something they don't want out there, you as an outlet you will lose your access, and nobody wants to do that.
Right. Yep.
So they're kind of blocking them, but not officially, but unofficially doing it.
Right. Yep.
And it's politics, my friends. Unfortunately.
Yep.
So Tom, I got to ask you a question.
Yep. Go ahead.
So you seem to follow this Littell guy all around. Like he signs with the Royals, you sign with the Royals, minor league system. He gets up to the majors, you get up to Kansas City. Then he gets traded over to St. Louis. You wind up there as well too. So what's the secret over here?
Mark, was I in St. Louis before you, or were you there before me?
No, I was before you because I went over that trade on 78. We're right at the same time.
I got traded in the spring of 78 over there before spring training ended. So I don't remember.
We both went to spring training then because I was 78.
Okay.
My first year was St. Louis, and then
me too. I got traded for Bassetti. I don't know who you got. Rick Bassetti was an outfielder. In St. Louis, and I went from Toronto to St. Louis, and he, I don't know, I don't remember what you're
Well, I had Robowski and Buck Martinez. We were all thrown in on the deal, and Buck went wherever and whatever, and then
Robowski needed a change of scenery.
Yeah, I guess. Well, but the funny, interesting thing was. Who was your manager over in Toronto, Tom?
Is that Roy Hartsfield?
Roy Hartsfield, yeah. And, not everybody gets along with everybody. It's part of how the world goes. And, he was not a big advocate of mine. And, he thought I fished a little more than I should have, over there. And he's probably right.
Well, it wasn't like he was managing a pennant contender.
No, it was just different. Like I said, went from a ball club that was happy and winning like crazy in 76 with Kansas City, and then we had like all expansion ball clubs, it's not the most fun place to be that first year. Give some guys opportunities. It just didn't work out for me. I was happy when I got sent to St. Louis.
I got to think anyone who goes to an expansion team, right? You throw contention right out the window because you know that that's not going to happen, and all you're thinking about is, I'm going to use this as my stepping stone to show some contending team that I can play and then hopefully get traded toward the end of the season. I think that's probably all you're thinking.
Well, yeah, I was, 23 years old back then, I guess. So it was
young.
And actually, you know what? When talking about how we thought, I think Mark will concur. It was just give me the ball, give me my opportunity to get guys out. It didn't matter where the heck we were, but that was our attitude.
Right.
Well, in 1978, that they gave you the opportunity, they gave you the ball, and you had your best season.
Right. 78 was. I felt good, threw good, and just wish I could have done it longer. That's all. Sometimes it doesn't work out like you want it to.
Tom was a quarterback in high school, right, Tom?
Yeah, played and a wide receiver, played a little everything. I mean, it's like old guy.
And Tommy always liked to screw around with people like me that were, his buddies, because he had an advantage over me, and I didn't like it because he could probably have knocked me out at any point because he was a Golden Gloves guy, And so he said, "Hey, come on,
I went to a Catholic high school, all boys Catholic high school, and it was kind of a mandatory thing that everybody on the football team participated in that Golden Glove stuff.
Is that right?
Oh yeah.
Tommy said that. I said, "Well, when did you stop?" And he said, "Well," I said, "Did you ever get knocked out?" And he said, "Yeah, matter of fact, I did." And I'm gonna try to tell this right, but I said, "Well, really?" And he said, "Yeah." I said, "What happened?" He said, "I faced a left-hander for the first time." I said, "About under a minute, I was on the floor or something." I said, "Well, did you ever do it again?" He says, "Nope."
That was more fun than I wanted. So,
really?
Yeah, it was a lot more fun being on the mound, getting guys out.
Yeah, I can imagine. Well, did you guys you guys had a baseball team, but did you play more Legion ball?
Oh, yeah.
It was so cold.
No, I played high school baseball.
Right.
Being in that northern tier of state, you don't get a lot of games played, depending on the weather. I don't know, maybe we played 12, 15 ball games in high school.
Sure.
But then you play summer baseball.
Mm-hmm. Was your summer baseball American Legion at the time?
I played some of that, and Babe Ruth, and
Little
League, and all those,
Sure.
I think, you had all the same thing down there in the Boot Hill of Missouri down there, too.
Same thing, pretty much, not quite as cold as where you're from, but, because I see up here in North Dakota, and same thing in South Dakota, that Dickinson, they got a really nice little stadium. They got that infield turfed now because those oil people threw some tax money out that way and got that thing turfed. Right. Looks pretty darn good.
Well, there's a new college team, a whole new college league starting up this year, Mark.
That's right.
Whole basic league for those in Dickinson, Pierre, Rapid, Scotts Bluff. A lot of different communities are going to have this traveling college team, I guess.
I was talking to the guy that heads that up, and I know I got 2 college teams in Arizona. I've had for the last 3 years anyway, and it's fun to do. The only bad thing is it's 115 degrees usually when you're playing those things. And I remember last year it was June 14th, and our opener was 119. I thought, gosh, it's not going to be like this all year. It wasn't.
Mark,
but,
it couldn't get any hotter than what we played in Kansas City and St. Louis. Remember, we could break an egg open on the dugout steps and fry an egg on the steps.
That was terrible.
The era of AstroTurf, and I mean, infielders, remember, come in, they soak their feet in ice water in between innings.
Exactly.
Their shoes weren't melting.
Exactly. It was bad.
I never understood why places like, especially like Kansas City, which was a baseball-only stadium, and St. Louis had that god-awful turf because no player liked it, and the heat, like you said, was way too hot, and I just didn't get it. I mean, I can understand, maybe St. Louis because the Cardinals played football there too, but why would KC need the turf?
Well, they're talking about the rain.
Yeah, exactly. No rainouts. I mean, you just bring in a Zamboni machine and scrape the water out of there, and let's go.
They had
you shorten the careers of your prime players. I mean, look what that turf in Montreal did to Andre Dawson's knees.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of guys. It was not good for any infielders or outfield. I don't think. I mean, it wasn't good.
There was that thing we had in St. Louis that it started raining. They'd roll come up out of the bottom, and it'd roll it across the infield. And
right. Yep.
Then they had the Zamboni, of course, and Kansas City and everything. And of course, George Toma was the best grounds crew guy ever in the country.
Yep.
He was the
best.
Great.
I don't think they had the technology back then, though, Mark, for growing turf like they have today. I mean, these guys can have ways of drainage and nutrients for the turf that's way beyond anything that was available back then in the 70s.
Well, you know, the very first time they actually tried that stuff, I mean, I shouldn't say this, but I don't know the very first time, but Mile High Stadium, Purdue University was really big in agriculture type stuff like you're talking about, and they put that drainage system on there where the water hit it and it drained underneath, and you know right. the turf stayed green. And if you played on in Mile High Stadium back then, you know that's what that was on the baseball field until they got the Rockies in there. Oh, so they had the you know the Colorado Bears, you know the Bears.
Oh yeah, we played a lot of baseball games in that stadium. Yep.
I think Toronto's the only team in Major League Baseball that has any turf left. The rest of them are all natural surface.
Oh. Right. Understandably, so why they can't grow it.
Yeah, I mean it's cold there. It's cold until June, and then it starts getting cold again in August.
Yeah.
Well, the funniest thing I've ever seen is when you go to Phoenix and you got that football stadium and they roll that turf out so it can get sun, and then they roll it back in and paint it up and play football.
On rollers. Yep.
On rollers. I think that's just the dangest thing. You'll drive out there after a ball game on a Sunday ball game, and Monday afternoon you'll see that turf just out there in that sun. And, you know, just growing, I guess.
Yeah. Well,
I hate to mow that.
How much growing? Even down there in Gideon where you're from, I mean, all the crops are better now than ever in history. I mean, they've got agronomists that have better seed, better fertilizers, better everything for a better yield for the guys in agriculture.
Oh, without a doubt.
It's all science.
There's no doubt about it. Yeah.
It's all science. So Tom, tell our listeners, you know, what you're doing today, what's your business, and how they can get in touch with you if they are outdoorsmen and they want to hunt and fish.
Okay. As Mark had mentioned earlier, you know, I've always had a passion for hunting and fishing as a child, and then we were fortunate enough to do that, traveling all across the country, seeing different places, hunting and fishing in different places. Mm-hmm. And ever since I got out of the game, I've continued with that passion to the point where I've opened up a guide service outfitters business here in South Dakota. And even after I left the game of baseball, I competitively fished all across the United States too, on the walleye circuit, not on the bass circuit, but on the walleye circuit. And like all games, they're meant for young guys. So about 20 years ago, I decided to devote my time fully to the guide and outfitting business. And my company is called Major League Adventures, utilizing the little bit of time I played in the big leagues. So that's part of the name of my company, Major League Adventures. And what we do is take people fishing in the summer and spring and autumn, and also upland birds, mainly pheasants, here in South Dakota. So I can be reached through a website or my phone number. When cell phones first came out, I got a cell number, and it's 970-214-2891. That's a Colorado prefix, but that's, you know, like all of us, that's all I have left now is a cell phone. I don't even have a landline anymore.
Same here. And from the internet, they can actually get it at majorleagueadventures.com.
Correct. Yes. Yep, that's my
and we'll
website.
Put that up on our site too. So
absolutely.
Well, yeah, appreciate it. Yeah. And if people want to reminisce and talk about baseball and hunt and fish, you know, I've got a lot of guys that are avid fans of baseball, and we spend a lot of our time visiting about the old times playing while we're fishing, and just have a good time. And this is a big body of water. I mean, it's 260 miles long and 10 miles across. So, and I run a 20-foot boat, and I'm a U.S. Coast Guard registered captain, charter boat captain. So I've got all the proper credentials. Everything's up and up. But,
now, is that a lake, Tom, in front of you where you're at? Because I saw the picture. Is that a lake or is that the river too?
Well, it's really a river with a dam on it, and it creates a reservoir called Oahe, O-A-H-E. It's pronounced Oahe, which
yes.
in the Lakota Sioux language means a firm foundation or a hard place to stand upon. So it holds water, and it's the largest dam on the Missouri River. The two above me, the Garrison Dam in North Dakota creates Lake Sakakawea, and then there's the one above you, Mark, up past Newtown, and there's in Montana. What the heck up there? It's Fort Peck Reservoir. The Fort Peck.
Yeah. That's right.
And all three of those are big reservoirs, and then the one below me here is called Lake Sharp, and that's got another dam on it. So I fish both Lake Sharp and Lake Oahe here in South Dakota.
So you've got walleye there, and just about anything right there.
Well, smallmouth bass. People are avid bass people. First time in history, we've got an Elite Series event at the end of June this year, and because we've got a great untapped smallmouth bass fishery, and a lot of guys are now getting active with guiding for that too.
That's damn interesting.
But what's nice about this, if you like a rural setting, a wilderness type of setting, granted it's the prairies, but there's no buildings or houses or anything on the shoreline, so it's all just kind of a pristine natural body of water when it comes to the shoreline. There's no buildings on it.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, it is pretty, real beautiful, the country.
Yep. And then, as you know, we've got great pheasant hunting. We're one of the few states where we shoot our state bird.
Now, is your state tree the telephone pole down there? Is that what it is?
Is the what?
No, the state tree.
Right. Yep. The telephone pole. Correct. Yeah. It's like your state. Same one.
Yeah. Same thing. Telephone pole.
Yeah. Right. That's our state tree. Yeah.
I was gonna chime in and say your official breakfast is flat as a pancake, but that's probably not funny.
Well, right. That was your observation when you drove across here, Mark, and that's correct.
that was my observation when we went to Mount Rushmore. That's for sure.
Right. Yep.
So what we do at this point in the show is, since I'm the starter and starters never finish games anymore in Major League Baseball, we all know that, and you're the middle guy, so you carried us over here, and now we go to the pen and we bring in the tall righty, the closer, Mr. I'm 65, but no shit, I can't believe it. So he's going to close us out.
All right.
Yeah, and that's the way I close this out, Tom. And by the way, really glad to have you aboard on this show, because I do know you quite well, and it's good to catch up. But the way I close this out is I just say, you got to throw peas at the knees, no pies in the eyes, no wall balls, and you'll be just fine. Thanks, Tom.
Nice.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you. Hey, thanks, guys. It was my pleasure to be part of your program today.
Okay.